Okay, hi everybody. Anybody else on it? Just me and Ralph.
This is Mike.
Okay, it's a family show, so let's go. Um, we're recording. Last week was Thanksgiving, so I'm just going to do just where we got from at the age of 97 in last week's Parsha. Esav and Jacob have the seminal meeting face to face. Jacob sends gifts. He splits his camp into two, and he prays. And those are the three ways we deal with adversaries. We try to bribe them with tribute. We dive into God, and we split our camp. Lest one be destroyed, we'll still have another camp to go. And we see that happened with, certainly in the Holocaust, you have Jews that were in America, they survived. The Jews in Europe were lost. You have Ashkenazi camp, you have Sephardi camp. Currently, we have the Israel camp, and for the most part, the America camp. So we do split into two at least, so we have more opportunity. We spread out, so they can't get us. Jacob comes away from that pretty much unscathed, and he settles. In last week's Parsha, he settles temporarily in the town of Shechem, known as Nablus currently. His daughter is raped, and what's interesting is his daughter Dinah, his 13th child. What's interesting is that she goes on, that child that Dinah has from that rape goes on in next week's Parsha to become the wife of Joseph, the tzaddik, Joseph the righteous one. And from her comes two more tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. So it's strange, how did this rapist become the grandfather to tribes of the Jewish people? And that's history. That's how God makes things happen in strange ways. We also see that King David comes from the Moabites through an incestuous relationship with Lot and his daughters. That is the line of the Messiah. So, don't know. That's how God does it. He likes to shuffle the deck. So in this week's Parsha, what did we learn from that? We learned from that we don't know how cause and effect works in this world. We see things happen, we think, oh no, that's going to be terrible, and it becomes something 200 years later, which is significant and important. And we see things that we think are great, and they sometimes end up shipwrecking us, and we go like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this thing which I thought was a blessing was. So we don't know. We don't know how this world works. That keeps us very humble. Now, in this week's Parsha, they sell. It says Vayeshev. Jacob settled in the land of his father in Canaan. Jacob thought that's it. He got Dinah back. He's got all his sons. He's going to kick back a little bit. He's about 100 years old at this point, and bad move. You never settle. Jews don't settle. We don't retire. Look at Ralph. Ralph is the most busy retired guy I've ever seen. Hardly ever get him on the first phone call. We're moving around. We're doing things. We may switch hands. We may go from 40 years of a career in one thing and start a new career in something else with a different lifestyle. But we're not on a golf course and just waiting for I don't know what. That's not how Jews roll. And Jacob, just for a second, thought he was done. And what happens? Joseph is sold into slavery by the brothers. Why? Because the brothers thought that Joseph was an Ishmael. They thought that Joseph was an Esav. They thought Joseph was a bad guy and not proper. Even though he came from Rachel, the firstborn of Rachel, they thought that he was usurping the family. Why? Because he was the favorite of the father, Even though he was the 11th son, he was Jacob's favorite. He was the firstborn of Rachel, the wife that the wife that was beloved most to Jacob, and he had dreams. We all know he had dreams, and these dreams were about him being the king over the brothers. Well, that didn't go too well. So, and we also know he got his Technicolor coat, right? He got the special coat from his father. That didn't help things out either. Never understood why he got that coat from his father, because you got to be careful how you show favoritism with children. Anyways, the brothers felt logically these you can't understand how great the brothers were. They were Torah scholars of the highest caliber, and they said, "This guy, he's out of here. We're going to kill him." And they threw him in a pit, but he's saved by, in the end, he's really saved by Yehuda more than he's saved by Reuven. Reuven says, let's throw him in a pit, and Yehuda says, let's sell him. So they sold him to a caravan, and he goes down into Egypt. Why? Because the Jews had to go to Egypt. Sometimes we ourselves have to go to our Egypts. There's places that we go in life that we need to be under a high stress environment that's not too friendly, but there's something that some character flaw that we need to be refined, or there's some greatness that needs to be revealed. We all have our Egypts, and in fact, there's a line in the Shema, and by the way, commercial, anybody that wants to wrap the fill-in, I'll be doing that a week from Wednesday over in some shul on Ventura in Encino from 7:30 to 8:30. We're going to have schnapps and bagels and wrap the fill-in. And we say in the line of Shema something very important. Every day we say this line. And it's important to it's a reminder. We say that so that you remember and perform. We do tzitzits to remember and perform all my commandments. God says to us to be holy unto your God. I am your God, who has removed you from the land of Egypt to be a God to you. I remove you from the land of Egypt every day. We go to Egypt every day. There's something, oh my gosh, look at the situation I'm in. It's like in Egypt. Egypt means in Hebrew narrows, a very narrow, confined place. So Joseph is sold to Egypt, and he's lost. The brothers could not keep track of where. Can you imagine someone being, God forbid, kidnapped in the old city of Jerusalem? How would you find that person? They're gonna the Arabs are gonna sell it to someone, and they'll truck him out to Syria. They'll move him into Iraq. He'll end up in Kuwait. You'll never find him. Well, that's what happened to Joseph. They lost track of him because he was sold from the Ishmaelites to the Midians. He was gone. So they go back to their father, and they dip a goat's into goat blood, which looks like human blood, and they show him the coat, and they said, we found this? Do you recognize this? He goes, oh my God, Joseph's been killed by a wolf. Well, no one said he was. The brothers didn't say that. That's what Jacob thought. So Jacob goes in the morning. He's going to go in the morning for 22 years. He's going to lose prophecy. Jacob's in Egypt. His father is mourning. What's going to happen? It's a disaster for the Jewish people. So what happens is Yehuda, whose idea was to sell Joseph, is the brothers look at him and go, that wasn't such a, I don't know, they looked at him disparagingly. And Judah, which were named after Judah, is becoming the leader of the Jewish. He's becoming the leader, and he made a bad. He could have worked that situation out better. Therefore, he leaves the brothers. He goes and he lives away from the brothers for a number of years. He has 3 sons, and to make a long story short, his wife dies, his 2 sons die. He ends up having relations with his daughter-in-law, who he, by the way, it's okay in that situation. I can't go through all the Jewish law about it, but God wanted him to have relations with his daughter-in-law, and that is the seed of the Messiah. The seed of the Messiah is coming through Judah, and the daughter-in-law who he brought into the family to marry his sons, but he was really supposed to marry his daughter-in-law, not have her marry his sons. So the child is going to, that's the Masonic line. So look at the line of the Messiah. It's incestuous from Lot and the daughter and his two daughters, and it's from a daughter-in-law and Judah. You know, you get it? And it's going to end up in a non-Jewish woman who's Ruth, and who's a Moabite, about 400 years later. It's going to come from a convert. That is the line of the Messiah. I don't think you could have written a stranger story about where the Messiah comes from. Anyways, back to our story. So now Joseph is he's working for someone, and the person he's working for. Anywhere Joseph goes, there's bracha, there's blessing. Anywhere a Jew goes, there's a lot of blessing. If you want to see where civilization happens and innovation, technology advancement, ideas, art, culture flourish, dominance, and politics happen, watch where the Jews go throughout history. Do an overlay of where the Jews and who's making the most noise in that century. So Joseph is now down into Egypt, the only Jew in Egypt, 17 years old, and where he's at, the master of the house, his wife, is after Joseph morning, noon, and night. She's totally decked out in the latest clothes, yeah, and wearing Victoria's Secret stuff all the time. Joseph's going crazy. He's 17 years old. She's after him. She's a looker.
What's her name?
Her name, they know her as Potiphar's wife, because Potiphar, it's his house and it's his wife. She misread a fortune. Her fortune was she is going to have Jewish tribes, but she was wrong. She had adopted a daughter, and that daughter happened to be Dina's daughter. Dina's daughter was going to be adopted by this woman, and they're going to give that to Joseph as a wife when Joseph becomes king in next week's Parsha. She thought it was her. She was wrong. It was the adopted daughter. So you see, people read prophecies or whatever symbols wrong, and God has to straighten these things out. Anyways, Joseph, she tries to get Joseph to have relations with her. Joseph runs out of the house completely naked. She grabs his clothes, his cloak. He runs, and that's something we have to learn. Sometimes in life, we just got to get out of our situation and leave the clothes behind and run out in the street naked. If that's, or otherwise it's a big, if we're facing, the consequences could be terrible if we continue where we are. Sometimes we preferably have to run out in the street naked and get away from that situation. It's a no good situation. I'm sure everybody has had such an experience. And so because of that attempted rape, he's framed for attempted rape. He's thrown into jail, and he meets two. This will end our story. He meets two people, the butler and the wine steward of Pharaoh. Okay, he meets Trump's chef and Trump's wine expert, and these guys are thrown into jail because the wine guy let a fly in his cup, and so Pharaoh put him in jail for that. And the baker, the other guy was the baker. He had he let a pebble get in the flour and it ended up in a piece of bread. So Paro put him in jail for that. So they wake up one morning and they're very upset. And Joseph sees them. Joseph is now he's in jail. So what do you think he's doing? He's the Jew running the jail. He took over the jail. They saw that everything Joseph did in jail worked out nicely. They said, you run it. He's still a prisoner, but he's running it. The warden's kicking back. Hey, this Jew is running this place better than I can. So Joseph says to these two guys, what's the problem? You guys look really bothered. They explain their dreams. Joseph analyzes their dreams, and the dreams come true. The wine steward is released from jail on Paro's birthday, and he also predicts that the baker will be hung on Paro's birthday. Sure enough, he's hung on Paro's birthday. The baker got the death sentence, and the wine steward got free. He tells the wine steward before he leaves the jail, remember me. I'm a Jew. I got stuck down here. I'm framed. I'm innocent. Please, can you get a pardon out of Paro for me on his birthday? And the wine steward completely forgets about Joseph. And we'll see in next week's Parsha, it'll be 2 years until Joseph gets out of jail. So they say, the reason Joseph didn't get out of jail is because he asked the wine steward to get him out of jail. They said, well, why not? I mean, he took a shot. He took his best shot. He knows the wine steward's leaving. He knows he predicted the dream correctly. So tell the guy to tell Paro, get me out of here. I'm innocent. He goes, no. It was the whole reason why the wine steward was there was completely coincidental and serendipitous. Don't worry, God's going to take you out. Joseph had stretched himself beyond the limits of trust in God, and he got punished for that. On his level, he should have realized God was bringing him out of jail, and he relied on this lousy wine steward who was actually a very bad guy, and he put his trust in a human being instead of his trust in Hashem. For that, he got 2 more years sitting, rotting in jail. That's the level that God judges the great people that come before us. We're all judged at our level. Last point is that why did Joseph even know that these guys? What did even open up to Joseph that he would interpret the dreams of these 2 people in jail? Because you saw that their faces were sour in the morning. They looked troubled. If you we have even Joseph in jail cared about other people and said, hey, what's wrong with you? If we care about other people and look on their face, we should ask them, what's going on with you? You don't look happy today. Because of that, it will eventually lead to Joseph being released from jail because the wine steward will see next week's Parsha, he finally remembers Joseph 2 years later, and he tells it to Paro. So look at other people, see how other people are feeling. If you care about other people that way, it also could lead to our own redemptions. All right, that's it. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Okay.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Okay, boys.
Be well.